Yo, it's good. It's your man, 100 Grand Ross with The Rock Never Stops. The Detroit Pistons are looking forward to an exciting offseason where everything seems to be falling into place. I want to dive into that in this video. If you enjoyed the video, smash the like button for me, hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. We are on our way to that 1,000 subs. Please feel free to support and join. Yo, let me just start off by saying I could not be more excited about their coaching hire. And in an off season with so much coaching overturn and guys being hired, fired, let go, and a lot of them really didn't make sense, because one thing I always say is before you fire a coach, make sure that there's another coach out there who's better than the coach that you're firing, who's available. And so far with a lot of these teams, there hasn't been anybody better. Like, they fired Monty Williams just to go to Frank Vogel? Nah, not Frank Vogel, right? You're firing Doc Rivers to go to Nick Nurse? Really? Nicky? After what he just did in Toronto last season? Really? But these are the things that we're seeing. But then you have the Detroit Pistons. And the Detroit Pistons not only go out and get Monty Williams, and I want to emphasize that they went out and got him. You have to understand, Monty Williams still had money on his books. He was still going to be making millions of dollars next season and the season after. He was likely going to take some time off. It didn't seem by any report that he had any intention of jumping back into the coaching ranks. But somehow, the owner for the Detroit Pistons, general manager, team president, the organization came together and said, this is our guy. And they went out and got him. Now, when you understand the type of coach that Monty Williams is, you also have to keep in mind who he's replacing. Dwayne Casey. Dwayne Casey, being one of the more renowned developmental coaches who generally has strong relationships with his players, is able to instill a sense of team identity and culture, accountability. He really is a coming-of-age coach. And when I say coming of age, I mean he helps players to grow up, to mature, to be prepared for the grown man's game that is the NBA, right? They don't have time for guys who are distracted, unfocused, who are not willing to put in the work, not willing to be held accountable, not coachable. They bring you in and they help you to mature. And Monty Williams comes in right along in that vein. Not only does he help guys to mature and to grow in their game and developing great relationships, but he's also extremely skilled at developing big men. Say what you want about DeAndre Ayton. When he came into the NBA, he was not, and I repeat, was not known as a high-level defender. He was an offensively focused center, much like a Karl Anthony Towns. He wanted to shoot, he wanted to score, and not much else. Even at the University of Arizona, you didn't see locked-in defense. And all of a sudden, with Monty Williams, he completely turns that around. Now, I've criticized many times. I think that they missed out on not emphasizing that offensive side of him. But you have to give them kudos for how they have molded a primarily offensively minded player into a great defensive big man. Like, he may not be as physical and as tough as we want him to be, but he's durable, he's consistent, he's extremely effective, and he's extremely versatile. Now, that's important because you're looking at the Detroit Pistons with probably one of the deepest bags of talented big men. From Jalen Duren, James Wiseman, Marvin Bagley III, Isaiah Stewart, who, even if he isn't as talented as the others, what he brings in terms of intangibles, leadership, toughness, physicality, his ability to set great screens and do a lot of the little things, he is an extremely talented big men and likely their incumbent starting power forward. You see, when you bring in a Monty Williams, you are bringing in somebody who is going to be able to get guys to fall into line. And this is key when you have so many talented players. But they didn't just stop there. They brought in a favorite of mine, Silas. And Silas, even though he had a rough run in Houston, and if you've heard my channel before when I've spoken about Silas, he got shammed. He got screwed. He got done dirty. He was in Dallas, minding his own business, coaching Luka Doncic as the offensive coordinator. And they said, hey, you know what? You're one of the hot coaching options. We would love for you to come into Houston to coach James Harden and this team who's trying to make it to the NBA Finals. And he said, you know what? This would be a worthwhile coaching opportunity. Because remember, he was the son of renowned Hall of Fame coach Paul Silas, who had been around in the NBA, college ranks for decades. I mean, he was a mainstay. He had been somebody well respected, and his son grew up learning from him, developing behind him. He understood the NBA game, and he was able to kind of gradually structure his career in a way that allowed him to position himself to continue to learn, to continue to grow, and develop as a great coach. Unfortunately, when he gets to Houston, the rug gets pulled out from under him. James Harden refuses to give him a chance, forces his way out of Houston, heads over to Brooklyn before forcing his way out of Brooklyn on his way to Philadelphia. And the whole time, Silas is left holding the bag because now, instead of having a veteran team that's ready to compete in the playoffs for a championship, he's coaching a bunch of young guys who are trying out new positions, figuring out their place in the league, trying to learn the NBA game. And that spells doom for any coach. Any coach. Let me say that again. Any coach is going to struggle when you are coaching a bunch of young, talented guys who are still trying to learn the NBA game. Worse is when your team is saturated with young guys. Is saturated with young guys. Now, let's be clear. Many of these coaches have a thing, a niche, a talent, a skill that makes them marketable and makes them good fits or great fits with different teams. Silas was never known as a developmental coach. He was known as an offensive-minded coach who was great with schemes and X's and O's. But here's the thing. He was cutting his teeth coaching veterans. Coaching guys who are ready to win now. He was coaching guys in Dallas like Luka Doncic, Tim Hardaway Jr., right? He's coaching guys like Dorian Finney-Smith. He's coaching guys like Maxi Kleber. He's coaching guys like Reggie Bullock, guys who know how to win, guys who have skill, who have been around the block a few times, who understand the NBA game, know who they are, play their roles to a high level, in which he is then able to create schemes knowing they can execute it. In Houston, he was not able to do that. In Houston, he had guys who are still finding themselves. He had guys playing out of position. He had guys still figuring out how to apply their game and what part of their game is even going to work at this level. Worse, he had almost an entire roster of those guys. Most teams will have 1 to 3 young, talented guys that they're developing while they are playing the veterans and winning. Houston had about 10. He had about 10 guys still trying to find their way. He was never going to win. And worse, this no longer was a good fit. And it took a while for them to come to that conclusion. I mean, because I think they knew it immediately when James Harden left. And they tried to make the most of it because you just hired him. But it became abundantly clear this was not a good fit. Now, from all accounts from the players, from most of the players, they liked the guy. They thought he knew what he was talking about. They were able to learn from him. But he was not somebody who could hold people accountable. All that's to say is that now he's in Detroit. And in Detroit, he has guys who have maturity, high basketball IQ, already bought into a system and a culture, guys who have a degree of awareness of who they are and also operating in their natural positions. With Cade Cunningham returning, Monty Williams at the helm, Dwayne Casey in the front office, right? He's got the support to continue to grow while focusing on his strengths. Remember what Monty Williams lacked in Phoenix. The X's and O's, to make adjustments, to make changes. And now he has an ace assistant coach to make up for where he lacks. And Stephen Silas has an ace head coach to make up for where he lacks. But the other beautiful part about how this offseason is coming together and falling into place, it's almost like when you're doing a puzzle and you get down to the last few pieces. You can pretty much see where everything is about to go. And you just got to position the last couple of pieces right in there and it fits just right. This draft, I think, is going to be the last time the Detroit Pistons are picking this high in the lottery. I think they'll end up like the Orlando Magic this year, barely missing the play-in or the playoffs. But at the same time, I wouldn't be shocked if they made it. Because the last few pieces are in free agency and the draft. The draft, if you follow my channel, I already said Horace Walker, however you pronounce his name, the brother is bad. I compared him to Andre Iguodala, compared him to a Draymond Green, compared him to a lot of the other talented big men who are versatile, who are highly skilled, who can attack the basket, great athleticism, ball handling, passing skills. He's that Swiss Army knife that comes in and really many times is the last missing piece to bring a team together. He's that glue guy. He's the guy that makes everything work. And I think he's going to be perfect for them in the draft. But not just that. In free agency, they've got a buttload of money and a bunch of free agents who fit just what they need. But I think who they're going to settle in on is Jeremy Grant. He's a familiar. He's got continuity. He knows the organization and they know him. And I think when you put all these pieces together, it's going to turn out to be one hell of an offseason for the Detroit Pistons. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.